Hi, Istvan. Hi, everybody. It's Bruno here from Blackbird.io. Istvan, thank you for the invitation. I understand that you have been getting familiar with a number of tools relevant in the automation space. For the sake of comparisons, we could take Commanda and highlight some important similarities. Unique attributes of Blackbird include a friendly, easy-to-use UX, support for multilingual content operations, pre-built integrations with all major translation management and business management systems, or machine translation and quality management applications, support for large files and strings, many features made for a B2B2B context, dozens of pre-built enterprise CMS integrations, and our secret sauce, the Blackbird SDK. Okay, let's build our first process, or bird, as we call our workflows in Blackbird. We are going to work with content in Zendesk. The source content is going to be a simple article that is in German. It's just 3 sentences. Schönes Flecken am Rhein, kühles Radler in der Sonne, was möchte man mehr? The article is in a draft state, unpublished. Okay, now let's go to Blackbird and build our first and automated workflow, our first bird. First, we're going to give our bird a unique name. Let's name it GALA bird number 1. Then, as a first step, we are going to choose our trigger type, meaning we define what should set off our automation. We are going to choose event trigger. It means that we are triggering based on things happening in connected applications. Blackbird offers about 100 pre-built integrations, but the connected application in this bird is going to be Zendesk, because that's where we have our source content. We can scroll through all the apps and go to letter Z, or just start typing the application's name to find what we need. We chose our app. Now we will select the event in the app that we want as our trigger. We are going to choose On Article Published. Whenever an article is published in Zendesk, our bird will start flying now. Technically speaking, Blackbird is supporting webhooks in Zendesk. Blackbird can also work with callbacks for applications that don't support webhooks. Finally, we select the connection. We can click on Add New Connection if we haven't created a Zendesk connection yet. Here we already have 2 connections set up, and we're going to go with the connection named Blackbird. Now it's time to define our first action. We do this by clicking on the plus icon in the center of the screen and selecting Action. You can see a new action underneath our trigger. However, the action is still empty, and we must define what to do with which app and which connection. So we go ahead and click on Apps again on the right side of our screen. We search for the app that we want to add the action for. In our case, this is Zendesk again, and the action we select is Get Article. With this step, we ensure that we get the published article in a format that will be compatible with any other application. Now we have to tell Blackbird what information to send. We click on the tab that says Inputs. We define which article we want our bird to fetch. We could take any new articles published, or we could filter down to a specific article. We are doing the latter here. Using the dynamic drop-down list, we select the article from Zendesk that we want to work with. Time to add another action. We click on the plus icon again in the center of the screen and select Action. We now select a machine translation service from the drop-down list of apps and choose DeepL. For action, we select Translate, and we are going to choose Blackbird's DeepL account. Under the Inputs tab, we point to our source content, which is the article from Zendesk. Note how Blackbird is able to get this in HTML, a format that will be glitch-free in DeepL. Finally, we define the target language. We selected American English. Now that we have machine-translated content, we can add our last step to this bird. We can connect to Zendesk once again and choose the action Update Article Translation. We click on the purple Continue button and quickly fill out our variable input fields. We define the locale and which article to update. Most important, we define that the content for this locale will be coming from DeepL. The output of DeepL is the input for Zendesk here. We are finished with our very first bird. We can hit Save, and then let's publish this bird. With our bird set up, we can now go to Zendesk and publish our article. Remember? Article published was our trigger event. In Blackbird, we can now go to Flights, which shows our log history of executed workflows, our birds that flew. We can review exactly what happened in our workflow. We can see the execution of each step, as well as details like input and output parameters. We see that our bird flew successfully. Let's check in Zendesk how our new language variation looks like. Let's see the American English content. Uh-oh, could it be that DeepL did not translate the term Kulas Radler correctly into English? We suspect that Radler, in this context, is not bike, but a type of beer. Let's remedy this machine translation mistake with some changes to our bird. We are clicking on the three dots here, and first we're suspending our original bird. Then we are cloning the entire workflow. Finally, we're renaming the cloned workflow GALA workflow number 2. One way to improve our raw machine translated content is to add a post-editing step. Let's do that. Instead of a human post-review step, we're going to add a large language model to perform this task for us. Let's choose OpenAI. Blackbird offers a number of pre-engineered actions that already contain a complex prompt. Post-edit MT is one of these pre-prompt engineered actions. In our variable inputs, we simply point to the source text, the original Zendesk article in German, and the target text, which is the raw machine translation output from DeepL. We also update the last step of our bird. The content going back to Zendesk will no longer be the output of DeepL, but instead, the output of our MTPE action in OpenAI. To simplify our triggering, we are changing the trigger type from event trigger to manual. Now we have a fly button on the top. When we hit that button, our new bird will fly and execute all the steps of our workflow. We don't need to go to Zendesk to unpublish and then publish again our article to trigger this workflow. We're now ready to hit that fly button. We immediately see that our bird is flying successfully. This is confirmed when we switch to the flights page, where we see the status of our GALA bird number 2. A few seconds later, we see that the entire process has finished. With the new AI-generated post-editing step added to our executed workflow, it's time to check our English translation. And we see that the problematic word bike has been replaced with the word shandy. Checking the meaning of the word shandy, we see that it actually means beer or cider mixed with a lemon or a lemon-lime flavored beverage. So it has the same meaning in English as Radler in the original German text. OpenAI's GPT-4 has just corrected the output of our machine translation. But could we make even more improvements to our translation? Let's create one more variation of our workflow. We're going to use cloning again and give our new bird a unique name. Let's call this GALA bird number 3. This time, we are just going to make a small tweak. In the step where we are using OpenAI, we are going to add an optional input. We are adding a secondary prompt to complement our original prompt that instructed GPT-4 model to perform post-editing. Let's define our target audience, children, age 6-7. Once again, we are ready to fly our bird. We can see that the bird is flying successfully and see the details of the log of our flight under flights. With our bird's flight complete, we can go to our Zendesk article again. We reload our page and see that the translation has changed. Shandy became soda. After defining the target audience as children, all references of alcohol were removed, while keeping the context intact. It's still a fizzy drink consumed under the sun. It's just a non-alcoholic one. Finally, let's create one last variation of the same bird. This time, let's make the process more professional by adding a glossary. I created a simple glossary where 2 German terms have been defined. Radler should be translated as lemon beer in English. Rhine should be translated as Rhine River. My glossary is in Microsoft 365 Excel. What we're doing here is similar to what marketers call A/B testing. We're creating variations of a process, seeking to find the sweet spot in performance. In this bird, we're adding a new action again. This time, we connect to Microsoft 365 Excel, because that is where the defined glossary spreadsheet is stored. Blackbird could also retrieve terminology from many other apps, including Google Sheets, Amazon Translate, Trados, Phrase, XTM, SmartLing, MateCat, DeepL, MemoQ, or even MemoQ QTerm. We are then taking the exported glossary from Excel and instructing OpenAI to take it into consideration when performing the post-editing action. In other words, we are decoupling glossaries from their parent systems and repurposing them in other applications. Our glossary is acting as an anchor, a guardrail now for OpenAI's GPT-4. Let's hit the fly button one last time. Our bird is flying, and we can check on its flight's exact status under flights. Let's check our Zendesk article and translation one last time too. When we go to the English translation, we can see that the translation now reflects the terminology we provided. Radler has become lemon beer, and Rhine is translated as Rhine River. Not bad for a process that took only a few seconds to build and execute. Maybe there is just one last thing to do. Let's create a job in a business management system like Jira, XTRF, or Plunet. We can track progress, manage projects, and initiate billing when the time comes. Istvan, thank you again for the invitation. I'd like to wish you and all participants great success with this webinar series.